Trump and Cuba are currently beefing right now, and the Cuban president is talking all kinds of shit, and Trump is doing his best to fuck him over in any way possible. So this is the Times of India. Trump cuts off oil, financial supplies to Cuba, and gives two options to Havana, or military invasion. We are ripping dictators out of their beds. Don't think you're off the table, big guy.
Of tensions in the Western Hemisphere, U.S. President Donald Trump...
Anyway, this is Times of India on YouTube. Go to their channel, subscribe to it, yada, yada, yada. Okay, let's go.
Trump has issued a stark warning to Cuba, saying Havana will no longer receive oil or financial support unless it strikes a deal with the United States before it's too late. On social media platform Truth Social, President Trump declared that there will be zero oil or money going to Cuba, a direct reference to Havana's decades-long reliance on support from Venezuela. Trump wrote that Cuba lived for many years on large amounts of oil and money from Venezuela, and that in return it provided what he described as security services for Caracas. He added that this arrangement has now ended and urged Cuban authorities to reach an agreement with the United States before it is too late. The warning arrives in the wake of an unprecedented U.S. military operation in Venezuela, in which Americans captured President Nicolas Maduro and his wife. That
Damn right we did.
Operation has reshaped regional dynamics.
And all before breakfast.
And significantly squeezed Cuba's economic lifeline. Cuba's economy has been heavily dependent.
But yeah, no, that oil's ours now. We're just taking that.
On subsidized.
Don't worry, we will replace all of your money with American dollars, and you will all become much richer.
Venezuelan oil for years, especially as part of bilateral agreements dating back to the era of Hugo Chavez. With that support now effectively cut off, analysts warn Havana could face intensified economic strain. In addition to the oil and financial ultimatum, President Trump also reshared a social media post joking that U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio could one day be president of Cuba, adding, "Sounds good to me." While that comment is widely seen as rhetorical posturing rather than...
I mean, it's pretty funny. Rubio does a lot of shit, right? Like, he's the Secretary of State or something like that, and he does a lot of different shit. And the fact that he can speak Spanish means that he's basically Trump's envoy for anybody in the South, and like, south of the fucking equator.
An official policy, it underscores growing U.S. pressure on the island. Cuban officials have condemned U.S. statements, denouncing them as interference and a threat to their sovereignty. Havana's leadership portrays the situation as part of a broader campaign aimed at destabilizing the Cuban government. This development marks one of the most serious diplomatic...
I don't know that it's really a campaign so much as it's just kind of happening, especially right after the Cuban president started talking shit.
...confrontations between Washington and Havana in decades, and could result in toppling of yet another Latin American government.
Well, Cuba's in bad...
I can't wait. I'm going to wake up one day and it's going to be Army rips Cuban president out of his bed.
...good shape. Cuba relied on Venezuela for oil and for money, and
they don't anymore. Now they rely on the U.S. because that oil belongs to us.
Nobody really knows what's going to happen with Cuba. They're doing very...
This was January 10th, 2025. This was the beginning of last year. Trump was on this from the get-go. Also, this is weird, though, because he wasn't in office yet. He started on January, 20th, right?
Poorly. They're really third world all the way.
Maybe it's I don't know. Maybe this is that's a typo.
And we have a lot of great Cuban Americans, and I would say Marco fits very solidly into that category. And I might ask you to say a few words about, we were discussing it before, Cuba is a very different, they don't have energy, they don't have oil, but they would live off of the oil from Venezuela, and what they do have is very strong people, and very powerful people militarily, and they would protect the people running Venezuela, and they would take in a lot of money from Venezuela. Now they don't have that. They won't be taking in any money. So, Marco, what do you think?
Well, I mean, the fundamental problem in Cuba is that it's run by incompetent people that don't know what an...
God fucking damn it. Well, I mean, the problem with Cuba is that the people that are running it are fucking stupid.
economy looks like, much less a functioning one.
Oh,
They have a choice,
goddamn.
and that is they would rather have political control over the people, and they
Dude, every single person in this administration is a fucking mad lad. And I love it.
would have an economy that functions. And they've gotten away with it for 60-something years because they've had donors, the Soviet Union, and now most recently Venezuela. But that's now gone.
Also, China's given them a lot of money over the years, too, knowing damn well that they cannot repay.
So the people in control in Cuba have a choice to make. They can either have a real country with a real economy where their people can prosper, or they can continue with their failing dictatorship that's going to lead to systemic and societal collapse. So it's a very stark and dramatic choice, and it's one we hope to make the right one. We don't have an interest in a destabilized Cuba, but that would be their fault because they refuse to allow the people of Cuba to have either economic or political freedom, for that matter.
And Holly, you have a lot of people in this country that want to go back to Cuba and help Cuba. A lot of people have left, they came in penniless, they didn't have anything, and they've become very rich people in our country, and they want to very much go back.
Yeah, all the people that immigrate over here legally from these countries are absolutely on our side. They do not want to go back, and they are like, yeah, fuck yeah, America should overthrow that shit right now.
Back and help Cuba. So that's something that Cuba has that a lot of other places don't have. Peter?
Several oil tankers that quietly departed Venezuela.
Yeah, so this is what I was talking about. Trump's taken like 5 oil tankers at this point, including one that decided it wanted to raise a Russian flag and try and sneak by like we wouldn't fucking notice.
Earlier this month, with their tracking systems switched
And also like Russia could do anything about it.
off, have now returned to the country's waters, according to state oil company PDVSA and vessel monitoring services. At least 4 of the ships, most of them carrying crude, had left Venezuela.
This is how it went. Okay, the ship tries to sail, and the U.S. says, "Turn around, or we will sink you now." Or turn around, or we will board you and take your ship. And so they just kind of turned around because the U.S. has taken 5 of them at this point.
Venezuelan ports in early January, operating in so-called dark mode, a tactic used to avoid detection amid a strict maritime blockade
Yeah, except the U.S. is just better than that.
imposed by the United States. Their return highlights the growing strain on Venezuela's oil exports under the embargo, which has sharply reduced shipments to minimal levels. Monitoring data showed that a flotilla of around a dozen crude-laden tankers, along with at least 3 empty vessels, sailed out of Venezuelan waters last month in what appeared to be an open challenge to the U.S. restrictions introduced in mid-December by President Donald Trump. Those measures intensified pressure on Caracas and disrupted shipping routes, forcing many vessels to turn off their transponders to evade interception. However, the effort met mixed results, with several ships either stopped or compelled to reverse course. One of the most significant incidents involved the Panama-flagged supertanker M. Sofia, which was intercepted and seized by U.S. authorities this week while attempting to return to Venezuela. Another vessel, the Aframax tanker Olina, sailing under the flag of Sao Tome and Principe, was also intercepted, but later released and allowed to head back to Venezuelan waters, according to PDVSA.
Yeah, it's going back, though, is the thing. It's like that's the main thing here. It was allowed to go back to Venezuela.
U.S. officials had earlier
It was allowed to turn the fuck around.
confirmed that Olina, previously known as Minerva M, would be free. Satellite imagery reviewed by TankerTrackers.com later confirmed that 3 additional tankers from the same group, the Panama-flagged Merope, Cook Islands-flagged Min Heng, and Panama-flagged Thalia 3, were spotted back in Venezuelan waters late Friday. The monitoring service said all the vessels identified as having departed earlier were operating under U.S. sanctions at the time. A separate group of sanctioned ships was also observed leaving Venezuelan ports empty after completing domestic transport or unloading imported cargo. These maritime movements come as Venezuela remains under strict U.S. supervision following the capture and extraction of President Nicolas Maduro last week. U.S. authorities indicated that the next phase could involve a return to structured oil exports as part of a proposed $2 billion.
Yeah, no, we've already covered this. I mean, the U.S. owns Venezuela now, and the U.S. owns Venezuelan oil, and there's nothing that anybody can do or say about it.
$1 billion crude supply agreement currently being negotiated between Caracas and Washington. President Trump told senior oil executives on Friday that discussions on the supply arrangement had advanced. Meanwhile, major trading firms, Vittle and Trafigura, have received the first U.S. licenses allowing them to negotiate and transport Venezuelan crude, sources said. Supplies of naphtha.
Yeah, but they're transporting the Venezuelan crude not to China and Iran like they had been. They're transporting the Venezuelan crude to the United States, and then the United States will sell it for them and then give them the money for it.
To the OPEC member are
literal trillions of dollars, dude.
Also expected. Images additionally showed the tanker Nord Star refueling at Venezuela's Bajo Grande port earlier this month, underscoring continued logistical activity even as sanctions enforcement tightens.
They were trying to be there. I mean, you know, we had a Russia.
Oh, they fixed the typo this time. Okay, cool.
I guess sort of I call it a semi-Russian ship yesterday that we took over, and Russia decided not to defend that ship against us. It's a big movement.
Yeah, probably. Russia decided to stand down for fear that we would slap them hard.
The ship was loaded up with oil, and we took the oil, and it came out of that port. But Russia would be there, or China would be there.
Does the administration plan to distribute the money from the Venezuela oil sales? Is it, obviously you say it's going to go into these controlled accounts.
Yeah.
Would it go back to Venezuela in a
Yeah.
direct payment? Is it going through these goods? How do you plan to do that?
Well,
And
we
then I
want
have
to
a
make
second
sure
question.
that Venezuela can survive. You know, Venezuela needs money, and we're going to make sure that they get money, and we're going to get money, and the oil.
Yeah, we're going to make sure that the Venezuelan civilians are taken care of, and the narco-terrorists that are in charge are going to all be in jail or killed.
Companies are going to make something for the work they do, and they're going to get back their money. We're devising a formula, but it won't be so much of a formula. It's going to be what they need. We're going to take care of what they need. There'll be plenty left over. We're going to have a lot of money left over. And the money left over is going to the United States of America, and the oil companies are going to be very happy. Yep.
Thank you, Mr.
My second question is, would the administration offer a backstop to these oil companies for like financial guarantees, some sort of backstop, if the country did destabilize again?
That's a very interesting question. Using the word backstop, I haven't heard that word in a long time. That was at the Wharton School of Finance I last heard. That's a good term. We ought to use it more often. I hope I don't have to give a backstop. I'm just, look, these are very smart people, the smartest people that are not only in oil and business. These are the biggest companies in the world sitting around this table. They know the risks. I mean, there are risks. We're going to help them out. We're going to make it real easy. They're going to be there for a long time. We're going to be there together for a long, long time. And they're going to be taking the oil, and they're going to be bringing oil prices down. They're going to make a lot of money. They're going to get their money back. They're going to be safe. The people of Venezuela are going to be big beneficiaries, and the United States.
Yeah, see, listen, the people of Venezuela are going to get like a stipend check for everything that the U.S. pulls off of their land, right? Like, the U.S. is going to sell that oil for Venezuela and then give them money for it.
States of America is going to be a big beneficiary for what we've done.
And if they don't play ball, then the U.S. is just going to do it themselves, and they're going to kick them all out, and then there'll be a governor of Venezuela.
And, you know, one other thing I might say, it's also very big for national security because, again, just like Greenland, we can't have China or Russia occupy Greenland.
Correct. Yes, absolutely. And China has invested quite a lot of money into Venezuela, particularly because it's really close to the U.S. and it's on our hemisphere.
We can't have China or Russia occupy Venezuela. And if we didn't do what we did, China or Russia would have been in Venezuela. I think I can.
Definitely China. I don't know about I don't know about Russia, but definitely China.
Where's Mr. Chevron? So let me ask you, they would have been there if we didn't do this. Do you agree with that?
They certainly have a lot of economic interests in country. There's absolutely no argument about that.
They were trying to be there. I mean, you know, we had a Russia, I guess sort of I call it a semi-Russian ship yesterday that we took over, and Russia decided.
It was a Venezuelan ship that decided to raise a Russian flag to get around the U.S. sanction embargo, and it didn't work.
Not to defend that ship against us. It's a big movement. The ship was loaded up with oil, and we took the oil, and it came out of that port. But Russia would be there or China would be there. And we want them to be there for a different reason. We want them, do you people agree? In particular, China, they need a lot of oil. Russia doesn't need so much, but Russia was there anyway.
Yeah, Russia didn't defend it because they're not stupid.
But I assume you agree that China would like to be doing a lot of business there by buying oil. And I want to just tell President Xi and President Putin, but more so in this case, President Xi, because they do need a lot of oil. And we are open for business in the United States, and we are open for business in Venezuela.
Oh, this is the operation to take the tanker.
The United States has struck again at sea.
Yep.
Another oil tanker has been seized in the Caribbean, this time the Olena, in a bold pre-dawn operation that underscores Washington's tightening grip on Venezuela's oil lifeline. According to U.S. officials cited by Reuters,
And these people are, dude, these are like special forces guys too, right? Like they're coming in hot, and they all have like night vision and shit, so you're not gonna hide from them in the dark.
the tanker was intercepted near Trinidad on Friday by the...
They probably also have a blueprint of the fucking ship that they studied for hours before even going on to the mission. They do a lot of research into it. They are very good.
U.S. Coast Guard and Joint Task Force Southern Spear after sailing under a false flag. The vessel had been masquerading as registered in Timor-Leste, a move U.S. authorities say was designed to evade detection.
Yeah.
Marines and sailors launched from the USS Gerald R. Ford, surrounding and boarding the tanker
Look at that
without
beautiful
incident.
aircraft carrier.
U.S. Southern Command declared the message unmistakable. There is no safe haven for criminals.
That sexy feat of American engineering right there. Woo, doesn't even fit on the screen. Look at that shit.
Maritime risk analysts say the Olena's tracking system had gone dark more than 50 days ago inside Venezuelan waters. Classic behavior
Yeah, but like we don't care because we're America and you can't hide anything from us.
of what Washington calls the ghost fleet. The tanker reportedly left Venezuela last week fully loaded with oil, part of a flotilla that departed shortly after the dramatic capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas
Ripped him out of his fucking bed.
Maduro.
He said, "Come take me, you coward, bitch."
The Olena was not new to U.S. radar. It previously sailed under the name Minerva M, a vessel sanctioned by the U.S. Treasury last year for transporting Venezuelan oil in defiance of sanctions.
Yep.
This
It's funny. The crazy thing is, she could mean like a week ago, and it's still last year. You know.
seizure marks America's fifth tanker interception as the Trump administration enforces a maritime blockade aimed at strangling the
What is this sheet metal fucking rusted shit on the side of it? Take care of your boats, guys. Come on.
regime's energy revenues. U.S. officials say
This boat's just here for Wi-Fi.
the goal is pressure, not war, using control of oil, money, and shipping lanes as leverage. The move comes just hours after Washington released Russian crew members from another seized tanker, signaling that this is not a random campaign, but a calculated one. Vice President J.D. Vance summed it up bluntly: control the oil, control the regime. President
Yeah, we're not even fucking. We're like, is this about oil? Yeah, no, it's about oil for sure, absolutely. Yeah.
Trump
It was just a plus that we were able to take the narco-terrorist dictator out of his bed in the middle of the night and throw him into a jail cell because there was a $50 million bounty on his head that Trump probably pocketed.
now says Venezuela has agreed to ship tens of millions of barrels of oil to the U.S. and cooperate on rebuilding its energy sector, conditions that led him to halt plans for further military action. At sea, the message is clear. America is enforcing the rules, tanker by tanker.
Look at Trump. He is the captain now. Deal with it. Oh, man, though. But yeah, no, Trump, Cuba doesn't like what Trump is doing right now. So Cuba is super defiant after Trump says that the island will not receive any more money and will not receive any more Venezuelan oil. Oh, dude. Well, here's some summaries of the video. Cuba has the right to import fuel from any suppliers, says the foreign minister. Yeah, but the U.S. controls Venezuela now, and you don't have the right to force us to work with you. We have the right to force you to do whatever we want to because we're bigger than you, but that's not the point. Cuban president says that Cuba prepared to quote unquote defend homeland to last drop of blood. Says the guy before. Look, everyone talks shit until they get hit in the mouth. You notice that? Like, I'm just saying. Anyway, let's see what the video says before I start reading everything. Oh, okay, well, while I'm waiting for that, the U.S. President Donald Trump on Sunday said no more Venezuelan oil or money will go to Cuba. Fuck it. Said no more Venezuelan oil or money will go to Cuba, and suggested that the communist-run island should strike a deal with Washington, ramping up pressure on the longtime U.S. nemesis and provoking defiant words against the island's leadership. Venezuela is Cuba's biggest oil supplier, but no cargoes have departed from Venezuela ports to the Caribbean country since the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro by U.S. forces in early January amid a strike U.S. oil blockade on the OPEC country. Yeah. Meanwhile, Caracas and Washington are progressing on a $2 billion deal to supply up to 50 million barrels of Venezuelan oil to the U.S., with proceeds to be deposited in the U.S. Treasury supervised accounts, a major test to the emerging relationship between Trump and interim President Delcy Rodriguez. There will be no more oil or money going to Cuba. Zero. I strongly suggest they make a deal before it is too late. Trump literally saying, listen, we're about to go in and rip you out of your bed too. Make a deal with us or what's going to happen. Cuba lived for many years on large amounts of oil and money from Venezuela. We just heard him say that. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel rejected Trump's threats on social media, suggesting that the U.S. has no moral authority to force a deal on Cuba. We don't have a moral authority, but we have a physical authority to do so. You're in our hemisphere, buddy. Cuba is a free, independent, and sovereign nation. Free is doing a lot of work in that sentence there, guy. Diaz-Canel said on X, Cuba does not attack. It has not been attacked by the U.S. for 66 years, and it does not threaten. It prepares, ready to defend the homeland to the last drop of blood. They said we've been preparing this whole time, and we're ready to take on the U.S. whatever necessary. Guy, listen, we could rip you out of your bed in 2 hours too, and I think you know that. I think this is just kind of posturing for the media. Trump's top officials, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio, have made no secret to their expectation that the U.S. Intervention in Venezuela could push Cuba over the edge. Yeah, definitely could push Cuba over the edge. U.S. officials have hardened their rhetoric against Cuba in recent weeks, though the two countries have been at odds since former leader Fidel Castro's 1957 revolution. Yeah, Cuba. So obviously Cuba's defending its import rights to be able to import things from whoever the hell they want to, which is fine. It's just that Venezuela doesn't control their oil anymore. The U.S. controls their oil, and while you are used to getting your oil from Venezuela, you will now have to get that oil from the United States, and if you refuse to make a deal, you will not get that oil from the United States, because again, it's not Venezuela's oil anymore. It belongs to the United States of America. Next question, sir. Yes, please. Anyway, history. This is from The Guardian. Where's it at? History will tell. As the U.S. pressure grows, Cuba edges closer to collapse amid mass exodus. Like they said, Trump taking over Venezuelan oil will cause the Cuban country to collapse, or at least push it closer to collapse anyway. I don't know. Hatri Echazaba yes, this person, lives in Madrid, Spain. Mikel Fernandez is in Charlotte in the United States. While Christian, what the fuck is this? What are we talking about? Who are these people? Why are they in all the places? They're all Cubans, all raised on revolutionary ideas and educated in good state state-run schools. They have become disillusioned with their cherished national narrative that Cuba is a country of revolution and resistance. Facing a lack of political openness and poor economic prospects, each of them made the same decision: to leave. They are not alone. After 68 years of partial sanctions and nearly 64 years of total economic embargo by the United States, independent demographic studies suggest that Cuba is going through the world's fastest population decline and is probably already below 8 million. Cuba's barely even a country at this point. Get the fuck out of here. What are you doing, guy? There are a number of root causes for the exodus, but most experts agree that the blockade, decades of economic crisis, crumbling public services, political repression, and widespread disillusionment in the revolution have merged to become a polycrisis. The unrest further undermines Cuba at a time when the Trump administration is stepping up its offensive across Latin America. Yeah, this is going to be our hemisphere. These guys need to just get on board or get the hell out of the way. Like, it really, you're not going to be able to do anything about it. It's like stopping the sun from coming up. It's not going to happen. All right. Heavily reinforcing U.S. military deployment in the Caribbean, raiding Caracas to capture the Venezuelan president, and stepping up threats against the government of Panama, Colombia, and Cuba. Yeah, we ripped the Venezuelan president out of his fucking bed. We will come after all three of you, and you know what? We might do it all in the same night. I'm just saying. According to research on Cuba by Juan Carlos Albies Campos Espinosa, an economist and demographer, whatever, at the Christian Center for Reflection and Dialogue in Havana, and Dimitri Fazito de la Monda Dimitri, at the Federal University of Minas Gerais, Minas Morgul. The Caribbean nation's population is nowhere near the government's 2015 projection of the last year, 11.3 million, and has fallen below forecast for 2050. Between 2022 and 2023 alone, researchers say that 18% saw an 18% plunge in the population due to migration. People are fucking leaving Cuba in droves, guy. They are getting the fuck out of there. And now they're over here, we will fight till the last blood. No, listen, guys, that means you're gonna fucking take over and force every last person that's still there to fight, and they're all gonna die. But the exodus of young people is a prime accelerator of this decline. Most of those who leave are between ages 15 and 59. 57% are women, and 77% are of reproductive age. Cuba is so fucked, dude. Oh my god. Yeah, see, this is what I'm saying. It would be really easy for the U.S. to swoop in and just take over these impoverished third world countries that don't actually have like citizens or really anybody that would like fight back. And it would be super easy for us to do that. We would expand our borders. We would increase the quality of life for every sane, honorable, good person that wants to live there. The only problem is that they're going to absolutely fight their best to keep us from doing that because there's a lot of money in drugs. Anyway, so yeah, history will tell whether or not Cuba stays a country, and that goes the same for Panama and Colombia too, if I'm being completely fucking honest with you. Really hope you guys enjoyed it. Really hope you guys enjoyed what we were talking about. I enjoyed it a lot. If you did enjoy it, make sure to hit follow on Kick, where this was streamed live once a week. Make sure, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you're subscribed to me, because I mean, it's kind of like having a waiter and not tipping them, right? You're gonna watch me, you're gonna be subscribed to me. That's just how it works, okay? The U.S. is gonna expand in 2026, and so is my viewer base. The U.S. is gonna get 51, and I'm gonna get one guy. You know what I mean? That's all. Anyway, if you're watching me on YouTube, definitely subscribe at youtube.com/Cestal-G2D. If you're watching me on Rumble because you're tired of YouTube and you're tired of all the left-wing bullshit on it, then definitely subscribe to me on there too, at rumble.com/Cestal. And if you like listening to based opinions all the time on the internet and me calling out politicians and retard bots on X, you can follow me there at real_Zestel. I was labeled a Russian bot a couple of months ago by some fucking retard. I don't know. I did a video about it. You should definitely check that out. Anyway, I had a great time, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.